Call me Picasso, cause it's perfect. Hey guys, Brian here. Welcome back to another episode of SaltFishTV. On today's episode, we're building the Sump. Real quick, so the tool, or the only tool I should need, hopefully, is the sealant. I decided to go with Aqueon brand sealant, but I also went with black. So some important things when choosing silicone or sealant for your fish tank or aquarium is to make sure that it is fish safe and reef safe and that it won't leach anything out. So make sure you choose a bottle that says aquarium safe on it, or I'm sure you can look it up on Google. Okay, so for building this sump, I opted to get a sump baffle kit. I actually purchased this kit on eBay and it was $99. Sure, you can absolutely go and get glass cut made, but I decided to go with something a little more I guess professional looking. This is an all acrylic baffle kit setup. That way it'll be aquarium and reef safe, which is what we want. I really like this design. It'll have a nice adjustable baffles for your water level. So it'll be up like this, and then this will go in between these two plates. And then the water will go down underneath and into the return. This will be the refugium area. This will be the skimmer area. It has a nice cover. So this will be where your drain pipe goes. I think it's pretty cool cover. That way you're not getting water splashed everywhere. And that's where your filter socks would go. But I am going to be using media cups instead. So here's how it kind of goes. It'll drain down there and just come up and then flow into the filter cups and then go through these baffles into the skimmer section and through these baffles and then into the refugium and then so on and so forth. This adjustable plate right here slides up and down with these screws. You just loosen them and you can adjust your water height. Another reason why I opted for this kit as well, instead of just going with basic glass baffles. Alright, let's make things permanent. I remember why I chose black. Because it blends in with the black panels. But what I didn't realize is some of it is clear. Basically, what my goal is here is to seal off this entire compartment, especially since the water will be coming in through this area. It'll be essentially filling up and then flowing over and into the filter media cups. So what I want to do is seal this compartment off so that the water doesn't seep through the cracks. Doesn't seep through the cracks or anything here. And that way it does go through the filter media cups only and not bypassed. Make sure everything has a nice seal. So this stuff can get quite messy. I got it on the glass already. But that's okay. Because once it dries off, I can just pick it off or anything and clean it up as I need to. But man, it's a tight squeeze getting in those holes with your hands, at least for my hands. I got some big hands. But a good tip is, when you unpackage it, you pop it open, you put the tip on, cut it at a nice 45-degree angle, and then as you're going on this, because if you do flat, it's going to be kind of a pain to get a nice bead or a seal. Because if you do it flat, you put it on there, you might get too much, and then you have to use your finger or something to smooth it out. But whereas if you keep a 45-degree angle on this, as you're going up, you create the seal yourself, so that way you don't have to touch it. Pro tip. So another thing I wanted to bring up as a tip is before you solidify and start siliconing things and sealing it, you want to make sure that you have the correct measurements and dimensions of what is actually going in your sump. Like your skimmer, for example. I have it on hand, so I'm going to use it as a reference. But if you want to go off your footprint, you can. But it's not always the same because, as you can see, you got, the air valve coming out right there, and then you also have the water level adjustment knob right there, which will add more to the footprint. So what I like to do is actually put the equipment in the sump and get the good spacing and seal it in and solidify it. So I decided to position the skimmer sideways because if I had it the other way, there wasn't going to be hardly any room for a refugium type, and I definitely want room for a refugium. But the skimmer's in there nice and perfect. It's not crammed. There's space all around it so the water can get through. I just have it right up against this baffle because it's not standing up by itself, so that I could do the sealant on it. All in all, it's coming together, guys. See, plenty of space. Let's keep it going. We now have the skimmer section mapped out. The baffle is in place. Now it's time to map out the return pump section. Right, you guys, I mapped it out. Doesn't need that much space anyway, and there's good enough room in there for a heater as well. And I took off the water level gate because it was pretty heavy and it's gonna mess with it when sealing it, so I took it off. And I'll reinstall it when it cures and everything. And then this is just for spacing, but this will be up a little higher, about mid-range up in here. And then I'm going to put pinky pad or filter floss on that before it goes down and into the return. And then it won't be up against this because it'll cause some vibrations. So I left a little room over there. All right, let's make it permanent. This piece that goes in between that baffle and the other baffle, what I was telling you about, where I'll put the pinky pad or the filter floss, so there's no ledges or anything for it to actually sit on, which I think is kind of a flaw for this design that they sell. I think they should put some type of ledges so this can just go down, because now we have to seal it in place, but it's not going to just sit there by itself, you know what I mean? So what I'm going to do, I found some styrofoam and I cut a block like so, made it nice and flat on both ends. So I'm going to put it on the glass in the tank and have it rest in the middle like that, and then I will seal it in place. So if you do get this kit, do something similar. You can use wood block or anything really. But what I suggest is, what I'm doing is I'm doing the first part of it, seal it in first, and then put the block in there and then seal it to that one, and then wait for that to dry. And then when I put in the second one, put the sealant on the other side of this, and it's installed. But of course I'll take this out before I put the second part in. Makes sense. Alright, cool, let's do it. So just in case you didn't understand what I was trying to say, because I didn't really understand what I was trying to say, this is what I'm doing. I just put that foam block right there in the middle, and then I put that piece right on top. And I'm gonna silicone it in place on this side, and then when it dries, I'll take this foam block out and then put the second baffle part in there, and this sump will be complete. I mean, that's the only flaw with this kit. There's no ledge or anything. Oh, kind of been getting that sealant everywhere too. I'm a professional, you know. Alright, a few hours later, it's safe to say that 1 3-ounce tube of this silicone sealant that I got is more than enough to do this. I still have some left over. Alright, sump is complete, guys. It's done. It was a pain in the butt working with the sealant and everything, and getting everything to stay in place and installed, but it's done. Now we can move on. next is to allow this to cure for 48 hours, and then we can go into the plumbing, and then we can get it wet. We are almost there, guys. It is now 48 hours after the fact of building this sump and getting the sealant in there. Let's check it out. So I absolutely love this design. This kit is great. I think it's well worth the money. I mean, sure, there's always other options that you can do, but this is my build and this is what I wanted. I think it's going to turn out, or I think it's going to function really well. Perfect space for the skimmer, refugium. I'm even debating on getting like a nice show refugium with some nice macroalgae in there to get some reds and greens and maybe some blue. Our sealant is in there, it's holding. I'm a little messy with it. I could clean it up a bit, but I don't see a point, honestly. It's going to be underneath the tank and not really on show. But I think this turned out really well. It's my first time doing something like this and it's great. It's time to get this underneath the tank and get the plumbing started. So please stay tuned for that video, as I'm sure that's going to be a nice and fun one again. And I want to say thank you for those of you that are following along on this build. This is my first time ever doing something like this, and I'm pretty happy with the results so far. And it's going really well. And just want to say thank you again for watching. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me get that thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell notification button so you know when I upload next. And SaltFishTV out.